Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today I'm here to address something about Sapphire graphics cards. Now, when it comes to AMD graphics cards, they do make some bomb-proof designs. They're always really well made, and they are in reality always really good looking. And when they do that, they perform really well as well, and we do like the designs, but so many brands now are having a white model, and yes, they may only sell 1 in 10 compared to the black models, or this one's actually quite grey, there's not a lot of black on it, but the white models are they're there for a reason, and that is because when it comes to wanting to build something white cases are becoming more apparent, we get white power supplies, white memory, there's lots more white hardware out there. But the graphics card limitations, or graphics cards, can be a bit limited, and half the time we end up buying a graphics card just because it's white rather than because that is the exact model that we wanted. Now, I was obviously really lucky to get the 7900 XTX recently, and I was looking around it and I was thinking to myself, it was a shame they hadn't made a white one yet or at all. Now, it's only really the black around the RGB sections here that are plastic. The majority of the card itself is metal. Even the wraparound section that wraps around the fans is actually a metal plate that goes over the top. Now, the mix of metal and plastic makes my life a little bit more difficult because of requiring different paints, although I might be able to get around that, although it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. But effectively, I'm going to strip this down and I'm going to paint it white because I just want to see what this is going to look like in the right shade. So, it's at this exploded point of the graphics card that I realised that my GoPro had dropped a little bit further than I wanted it, and long and short of it is you get a lot of looking at my fat gut, sadly. So I'll just run through with you very quickly what we found. Now, this is the black bit where the fans sit in, and the parts for the RGB are actually stuck on. It's not really any clips, but there are a couple of screws which we have obviously removed. The most really that I wanted to show you is about the actual fan cables themselves, because as you can see here there are little clips. Let's zoom you in so that we can have a better look. And on the back of the fans there are little wires, and what happens is they clip in like this, and they do that here. So as you can see, why is it focusing back there? We'll do it like that. There we go. So the fans, the cable comes in and clips from behind, and then the fan goes over the top. Give you a little demo without actually clipping it right in. It goes like that, and then you take the fan and the fan would go over the top. Now, there is one more screw on the fan which goes on the other side, and that's how the fan's attached. So I thought I was going to have to mask it up, but we got all of the cables for that out to make life extra easy. Now, I'm still going to have to mask up this part of the fan around the back and try and get a good seal, because I need to try and paint all of this, that's just going to be not necessarily a challenge, but it's just going to be something that needs to be done rather slowly. The metal that goes around the shroud is it looks quite thick, but it does bend quite easily, and it didn't weirdly I didn't bend it when I was taking it off. I bent it once I'd taken it off, and I was trying to see how bendy it was, and then it was like, whoa, that's really bendy. So I have to be careful with that. Specifically careful with that when I am sanding and prepping it. Most interesting thing about the complete strip down though is this, and obviously this is the bracket that sits over the graphics card itself, cools the VRMs and acts as an entire GPU support. Now when we flip it on its side, this edge is the part that we're going to see. This hangs out of the outside of the graphics card. So what I'm going to have to do is mask up this area, because this is the contact point. That has to be masked up. We cannot paint this part, but I do need to paint this part, and I think I'm probably going to paint the top as well. And it's going to be quite a difficult one to get in there and prep. I'm just going to use some purple Scotch Brite and get in there. I think the Scotch is like 120 or 80 or something, but I'm just going to get in there with Scotch as best I can and do my very best. The light on the back of the back plate has gone. I'm going to let the paint go over the back where it wants to, although I'm not going to paint the back. I will mask up these areas that are contact points, but beyond that, that is the back plate. We will lose the Radeon and the Sapphire logoing on the back because it's painted. I don't think a sticker, if I was to have a decal made, would last very long. And then just to give you a quick look at the actual heatsink itself, you can see that there's quite a large vapour chamber down at the bottom, but there is also some raised metal padded areas for the memory. But you can see that there is big vapour chamber, lots of heat pipes, and that is the heatsink. And it's actually, if you think about it, there's not a great deal going on the heatsink, and it was actually completely separate to the top. So yes, that is our strip down. Squeaky tripod. So that is our strip down. Here is our PCB, but in reality, it is time for me to crack on. Oh, you can see some of it's moved. So we've made it to the end, and it's been a bit of a journey if I'm completely honest, but we have a white Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 7900 XTX. It's obviously the top flight one that we were talking about at the beginning. Now, graphics card, obviously lovely. As you can see, I messed up with the GoPro-y stuff, and I did kind of want to do a little bit of filming at the workshop, but if I'm completely honest, it's an absolute bomb site up there at the moment because I'm doing personal projects, because that's what my workshop is for. Anyway, so the graphics card itself, if you're planning on doing this yourself, then there are a couple of little hints and tips that I would like to pass across. Mainly, there is a tiny little bit down the back of the back plate that you're going to need to paint as well. There's also a small bit of the black plastic shroud down in the end that it would do you good if you've got some paint there as well. It's not something that you think you're going to be able to see, and out of everything on the back of the shroud, that is the one bit that you can see. And then with the fans, the fan screws are actually quite difficult to get to. You're going to need a really fine screwdriver to be able to get in there and get access to it. Sadly though, my thin screwdriver wasn't magnetic, and I was really struggling to get any magneticness in there. So I had to use my bigger one that is magnetic so I could dangle the screw off the bottom of it. That's how I damaged the fans. So I need a stronger magnet to be able to magnetise my screwdriver. Now you can see that we have now some OC 3D stickers on the fans, and they do look the part when spinning in my rig. Now the photos, as you can see, are in my height, which is my workstation that I use on a daily basis. The card, where it is it's over triple slot, is that little bit too tight on the side of the glass, if I'm honest. a normal kind of triple slot, you'd probably be able to get away with it. But the Sapphire is that extra half a slot extra over, and it did mean I had about 4mm of clearance against the glass. So the window would do up absolutely fine, but it would get a bit warm. So it's just a poor case choice. Now you're probably wondering, why don't you change the case? But that is my workstation, and it was the easiest all white system. I had to be able to show it off to you. The Sapphire bit all lights up at the side, on the back as normal. It all works as normal, as you would think, hope, expect. And when I first put it together, I was a bit upset that the black ring around the RGB was still there, because I did think that that might have been the plastic shroud underneath. But now I've seen it in the rig itself, I actually like the fact it breaks up the colour that little bit. Talking of the colour, it's Mustang Oxford White. I've always liked the white. Now you might think it doesn't matter what shade that you use, but frozen white is definitely different to Oxford White. And the Oxford White is probably about as white as I'd go before things start to take a blue tinge. But it's a beautiful shade of white, and I've actually been looking for an excuse to break out Oxford White on a graphics card for a long time. Now, this isn't the last time that you're going to see this, because I have a system that I'm planning on using this in. But there's actually probably going to be two, but one of them is here and I'm a bit behind with it. But the main case is I've actually been waiting for it since last year. And it's a case that you have seen, but it's a case that you've definitely not seen in white. So you're probably going to get a couple of decent airings of me using this. Please let me know if you think this was a good idea. More importantly, please let me know if you think Sapphire should make one. If they do decide to make one, it's not going to be quick. So just to be aware, these have gone down in price now. There's actually £100 off for overclockers. And you're probably thinking, oh yeah, he's just been paid to say that. He hasn't been paid to say that. But it's where you can get them from in the UK, and they've dropped money off. I'll put a link underneath. So you either want me to know that you either want me to tell you that there's been money off, or you don't. But £100 off now. Just remember, if you do decide to paint it yourself, you are going to void the warranty, because there's all kinds of warranty stickers and stuff on the back. But if you can have yourself a white AMD graphics card that looked like that, with, in reality, because you need to leave some gaps between the painting layers, I think you could probably get it done in a weekend. Prep it early on the Saturday, get the first coat on it with primer, let it cure off, move on to the gloss coats, depending on whether you use acid etch primer or not. Yeah, I think you could get that done in a weekend quite comfortably. And I think for your weekend off work, to suddenly have that appear in your system would be epic. But don't forget what I said, links underneath if you do want one. Please let me know if you do get brave and paint one. I think the next colour I might end up doing is candy red. Because I feel like we need to start mixing things up a bit, because it's either that or I'm going to have to do something, some weird kind of grey. But anyway, please let me know what you think of the white Sapphire Nitro Plus. Would you want one? Should they make one? Get in the comments, share, like, all of those things. And I'm sorry that I didn't give you the full breakdown. We will get there with the GoPro in the end, because it's really not worth looking at my gut, is it? But anyway, for now at least, this has been the tiniest one. He's finally got an excuse to paint a graphics card again. Out. Ding! Where's my hand? There it is. Love you, sis.